Hey everyone, this is Christopher Luxon, the former CEO of Air New Zealand.
This is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire.
This is Tracy Ibarra. I'm in Executive Solutions at Dell Technologies.
This is Travis Chappell, founder of Build Your Network. If you are wanting to learn how to embrace change,
To navigate through disruption as a leader,
then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast.
The Leadership is Changing podcast.
the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend,
my very good friend, Denis Giannoutsos.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsos.
Hey, welcome to the show, Leadership is Changing. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Leaders everywhere confront similar obstacles because people are people, but everywhere you go, leaders are overwhelmed, disrupted, and under pressure. They run from email to email, meeting to meeting. Many leaders are not changing quick enough, which means they run the risk of becoming irrelevant and being left behind. The purpose of the show is taking our listeners' leadership to another level by finding their balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. I believe we don't have enough effective leaders in the world today, and if we can get the leaders to step up and lead change, then they can inspire real change. Hey listeners, it's now time to adapt in our fast-moving world, and I want to welcome you to today's Ask Denis Freestyle episode. Hey listeners, if you haven't already checked out the Facebook group or the LinkedIn page, Leadership is Changing, I really recommend that you go along and check out those platforms and join that page on LinkedIn or the group on Facebook. And it's called Leadership is Changing. Hey, this is the Ask Denis episode where I do an episode once a week in relation to sort of freestyle, where I'm being asked by a question by our listeners, or I share my thoughts, insights, and experiences from working with many leaders around the globe. So welcome to today's session. I want to talk to you today, and it's around a question that I get asked quite a bit. As a leader, do I need to be active in the digital world? Do I have to do social media? Do I have to have a LinkedIn account? And the question to those questions are really quite interesting, because you see, what we're hearing is a whole lot of different things in the world today, and of course we are living in a digital world. So my answer to that question is, as a leader, do I need to be active in the digital world? My answer is, yes, you do. Now today, it's expected that leaders are both digitally savvy and also active in the digital world. You see, what we need to know about what's happening in the digital world, but also what's happening in the world of our business. And if you understand what's happening in the world of your business will be having to have a portion or part of it in the digital world. For a lot of leaders, and a lot of businesses, as we went through the COVID side of things, the pandemic, a lot of businesses had to adapt, of course, into more of a digital offering, service, or product. And that was so then they could actually have more of a reach to a larger audience, of course, around the globe or in their own city and so forth. So the thing here is, it's not just about social media, team. When we say being digitally savvy and active in the digital world, there's all sorts of things that you need to be involved with or need to at least know. Now, I'm not saying you have to be a rocket scientist around the digital space and you know what you're doing and you can have the ins and outs. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is you need to have some knowledge around that space, so then you know what you need to do to help your business, your team, your organization survive and move forward in the digital space that we are working in today more and more. So how do you stay successful and how do you stay relevant as a business in today's world? What I find is that if we talk about being active in the digital world, well, look, anyone can click like on a Facebook post or on a LinkedIn post and things like that. That's not what I'm talking about. If you're on LinkedIn, as an example, which is really a professional network site that has some wonderful articles, posts, and building of networks with people right around the world, it's a wonderful tool. Now, most people sort of shy away from it or aren't sure how to use it, and it all comes down to knowledge. It all comes down to actually understanding what it is and how it can actually help enhance your brand, personally or as a business, and how it can help enhance your business in the way of sales and networking and so forth. You see, I think it's a great networking tool. In fact, for you individually as a leader, it's your shop front. It's where people will come to find out more about you. More than likely, when someone wants to know a little bit more about you as a leader, they're going to Google, they're going to check out you online. And normally what happens is one of the first links that comes up about you is your LinkedIn profile. And so it helps build the awareness around your brand. So if you take my name, Denis Gianoutsos, DG Incorporated is my brand. I am the brand. Now, my business, it's called Leading Change Partners. Before, when I was working for Hewlett-Packard in that global role, my brand was inside the HP brand. In fact, it was inside a couple brands. One, it was inside the Human Resources brand as a human resources organization. And number two, it was inside Hewlett-Packard as a brand. The thing here about being active in the digital world, it's not just about hitting like on any post, as I said before. What's really important here is for you to be able to add value to your network, to the people following you, and so forth. Now, what do I mean by adding value? Adding value is like putting some words around somebody else's post. You see, because a lot of people say to me, oh, do I actually have to create content myself and so forth? If you can, yes. But you know what? You don't have to. Because you see, you have people within your network who are sharing articles or sharing their own posts or certain things. You can take their post but add value to it. How? You can put some words around that post and share it with your network. And when you do that, that's when you're starting to add value. You can put your point of view on to their post and so forth. So much so that you want to be able to have your network or people around you go, wow, they're really interesting. They've got an interesting point of view, or they add value. That's great. And so they will want to know you more. So the important thing here is it's not just about clicking like. It's about actually adding value to your posts or other posts shared by other people. So another question I've got, or I get asked around this, is how often and how long should I actually be on LinkedIn or social media and things like that? I don't think you need to be on there for 8 hours a day. Why? I mean, it's just totally unproductive. But I think what you should be doing is you should be spending some focused time on there. And I always say about 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes and maybe at lunch, and 15 minutes in the evening, or just 15 minutes in the morning and evening. And just go in there and think about what you're wanting to actually post. For some people, if they're actually sharing quite a bit of information, quite a bit of value, they may use some tools that will actually help them schedule these posts going forward. So whatever it is, whether it's 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening, or whatever you're wanting to do, I'm going to encourage you to be consistent in your actual activity in the digital world for sure. You see, the other thing that's really quite cool is that you can actually share articles that you may have written. 200 words, 300 words, and you can put a photo up and so forth. And if you want to go to my profile or my LinkedIn profile, you'll see some articles that I've shared there as well. One in particular is around presenting to executives with confidence, right? And so you can go and check that out. The photo that I've got there on LinkedIn is a photo that I've got from a site called unsplash.com. And for me, it's like royalty-free type photos that I'm able to use, and you actually have to give the people some acknowledgement for using some of the photos. But I will put a relevant photo up with the article depending on what the article's about. And using that word relevant is quite key here. Because you see, the key to being active in the digital world is to make it relevant for your audience. You just don't put posts up there or things up there that are random. It's got to be a little bit more targeted, but something that's more relevant for your audience for sure. Now, being in the social media side and being active in the digital world, it's a great way to be able to network with people, connect online, and then be able to take them offline. Now, for some of you, you might be saying, well, what do you mean by offline? Because, with social distancing and things like that and COVID, I'm not always able to meet with people face to face. So I'm going to actually change a little bit and say connect online to go offline, and offline might be a coffee or a tea face to face, but it also could be a Zoom meeting one-on-one or a Microsoft Teams meeting one-on-one with somebody over a cup of coffee and tea. And so you're having that more one-on-one time with them. It's a great way to actually be doing social relationship building. And people are sick and tired of being tried, people selling them things on social media and so forth. Just build relationships with people, network with them, Get to know them. Another great area around the digital and being active in the digital world is actually looking at, in particular, say in Facebook, or let's say in LinkedIn in particular, special interest groups. There are certain special interest groups that are available for you to connect with. But if you are going to connect with a special interest group, let's say it's one around CIOs, Chief Information Officers, and it's a group around that, and people globally have joined that group. What I'm going to highly recommend is that you post relevant information in there, or you, in other words, you contribute, or you actually add value to other people's posts by commenting and so forth and putting some value around what they've shared and what it means to you and so forth. So team, in a nutshell, what we're saying here is that if you want to be successful as a leader today, and whatever level you are, you need to be digitally savvy and active in the digital world. And it's going to get louder and bigger and stronger for all of us going forward. It's just something that we're going to have to get used to, something that we should already be used to, and something that if you aren't, then what I would suggest is that you get someone to help you. What I've seen over the years is that we've had, as an example, a graduate being mentored by a very senior leader. What would be ideal is if they had some reverse mentoring and get the younger person or the graduate to actually share with you and teach you and show you how to use social media platforms like the LinkedIns and so forth. There's one more thing I want to say about these platforms. It's like anything in life, like going to the gym. It's like that muscle memory. If you don't use it, and you don't use it in a way that's constructive and adding value, then people aren't going to be interested. And if you don't use it, it'll be muscle memory you forget. The important thing here that I want to say is that if you're consistent, disciplined, and focused on doing certain things on a daily basis, you will notice that there'll be a big change happening for you in the digital space. Don't get me wrong, it won't happen overnight, team. You're going to need to work at this. But if you're going to be successful as a leader today, you definitely need to be savvy in the digital world and, of course, active as well. Hey team, if there's anything I can do to help you in relation to some of this, feel free to reach out to me anytime. If you haven't already checked out the Facebook group or the LinkedIn page, Leadership is Changing, come along and join us there. We'd love to see you there, which would be great. Hey listeners, what we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Change is incredibly scary, especially with the unknown and the unfamiliar territory. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing. Hey, look out for the episodes as they're being released. Download them, have a listen, put a review, and put a rating. Feel free to share them with your friends, your family, and your network. Hey, if there's any feedback you'd like to give me about the show, or if there's a question you have for me for when I'm interviewing my guests, or for the Ask Denis freestyle episode, send me an email, dennis@leadingchangepartners.com. Hey team, it's always great being with you. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.